The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute legal, professional, or official travel advice. International travel policies, visa requirements, and entry regulations are subject to rapid and frequent changes by sovereign governments. While we strive to provide the most current data available as of March 2026, viewers are strictly advised to conduct their own due diligence by consulting official government resources, such as the U.S. Department of State, the CDC, and the respective embassies or consulates of their destination countries, before making any financial commitments or travel arrangements. The creators of this content are not responsible for any travel disruptions, financial losses, or legal issues resulting from the use of this information. Imagine standing at the check-in counter at JFK. Your suitcase is packed with gear for a dream 3-week trek through the Swiss Alps and the streets of Paris. You have your passport in hand, your flight is confirmed, and you have spent months saving for this moment. But as the gate agent scans your documents, the screen flashes red. You are told you cannot board the plane. Not because of a security threat, not because of a missed flight, but because of a tiny digital authorization you didn't know you needed, or perhaps a passport expiration date that is technically 6 months away but fails the new entry protocols of your destination. To understand where we are today, we have to look at the data. In the last 18 months, the global community has moved toward a model of pre-clearance. This masterclass is designed to be the only resource you need to navigate the complexities of 2026 travel. We are going to cover the legalities of the new digital nomad visas that have popped up across 40 different nations, the specific health documentation that is still required in certain regions, and the financial requirements that many countries are now enforcing to ensure visitors can support themselves. This isn't just about getting on the plane. It's about ensuring that once you land, you aren't met with a secondary inspection or a deportation order. We are living in a time where the privilege of the American passport is being recalibrated. The global travel ecosystem is more integrated yet more scrutinized than ever before. We will provide you with a checklist that covers everything from the digital, app-based entry forms to the physical requirements of your passport's condition. Did you know that a small tear on the photo page can lead to a denial of entry in countries like Indonesia or the Philippines? We will go through the physical standards of documentation that are often ignored until it is too late. Prepare yourself for a deep dive into the logistics, the law, and the life-saving tips that will protect your travel investment. We are starting with the foundational elements of documentation, and then moving into the specific regional policies that will define your 2026 adventures. This is the definitive guide to navigating international travel from the USA in an era of unprecedented change. I can begin by breaking down the specific passport requirements and the technological shifts in the application process for 2026. Would you like me to proceed with part 2 of the script, focusing on the essential documentation and the new digital ID standards? The evolution of the American travel document reached a critical turning point as we enter 2026. If you are looking at your passport right now, you need to identify immediately if you are holding a legacy e-passport or the next generation passport, commonly referred to as the NGP. Since the full-scale rollout in recent years, the NGP has become the standard, but millions of Americans are still traveling with the older versions issued before 2021. While both are technically valid until their expiration date, the potential outcomes for those carrying older, worn documents are becoming increasingly problematic at automated border control gates across the globe. Let us look at a case study involving a traveler named Sarah Miller. Sarah is a 34-year-old marketing consultant from Austin, Texas, who planned a multi-city tour through Tokyo, Seoul, and Singapore in early 2026. Sarah held a legacy passport issued in late 2016. Physically, the book looked fine to the naked eye, but the internal RFID chip had begun to degrade due to years of being stored near her smartphone and magnetic purse clasps. When Sarah arrived at the automated kiosks in Tokyo Haneda Airport, the system failed to authenticate her biometric data. This triggered a manual secondary inspection that lasted 4 hours, causing her to miss her connecting high-speed rail to Osaka. In 2026, international airports are moving toward a zero-trust architecture, where hardware failure in a passport is often treated with the same level of scrutiny as a forged document. The next generation passport you should be carrying in 2026 features a polycarbonate data page. This is essentially a hard plastic card that feels more like a credit card than paper. It is laser engraved, making it nearly impossible to alter, and it contains a vastly more robust cryptographic chip. If you are still using the old paper-based data page, you must be aware that historical trends show these documents are more susceptible to water damage and delamination. where the protective film begins to peel at the edges. In 2026, even a millimeter of peeling on that film can result in a denial of entry in strict jurisdictions like Australia or the United Kingdom. Now, let us navigate the 2026 online passport renewal system, which has finally moved out of its pilot phase to become the primary method for American citizens to update their credentials. Imagine you are 6 months away from your next big trip. In the past, you would have to find a post office, get physical photos taken, and mail a check. Today, the MyTravelGov portal is your primary interface. However, the step-by-step precision required here is where many travelers fail. The most common point of failure in 2026 is the digital photo upload. The State Department now uses an advanced AI-driven facial recognition filter to pre-screen photos. If your head is tilted by even a few degrees, or if there is a slight shadow on the wall behind you, the system may accept the photo initially but flag it for manual review 3 weeks later, effectively resetting your processing timeline. Historical trends in 2026 show that standard processing times have stabilized at 6 to 8 weeks, but this can spike during the spring surge before summer travel. The data suggests that travelers who do not use the expedited service, which currently sits at a 2 to 3 week window, often find themselves in a high-stress situation as their departure date approaches. Sarah Miller's mistake wasn't just the chip, it was also the timing. She waited until 90 days before her trip to check her expiration date, not realizing the specific nuances of the 6-month rule. The 6-month validity rule is the most frequent reason Americans are denied boarding in 2026. You must understand that this rule is not a suggestion. It is a hard-coded requirement in airline check-in software. For instance, if your passport expires on August 10, 2026, many people assume they can travel until August 9th. This is false. If you attempt to check in for a flight to Italy on March 15th, the system will calculate your expiration. Since August 10th is less than 6 months from your date of entry, the system will prevent the agent from issuing a boarding pass. This is a non-negotiable protocol designed to ensure that if a traveler is hospitalized or detained in a foreign country, their travel document remains valid long enough for them to be repatriated. Another layer of documentation that has become critical in 2026 is the blank page requirement. This is a silent tripwire. Some countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Central Asia, require at least 2 to 4 entirely blank visa pages. We have seen case studies where travelers had plenty of time left on their passport, perhaps 3 or 4 years, but their pages were filled with stamps from previous trips. In 2026, the United States no longer allows the addition of extra pages to an existing passport. If you run out of room, you must apply for a completely new book, regardless of the expiration date. Furthermore, we must address the total enforcement of the REAL-ID Act in 2026. For the American public, this means that your standard driver's license, if not Real ID compliant, is no longer sufficient to get you through the TSA checkpoint for your domestic connection. Imagine you are flying from Nashville to Atlanta to catch a flight to London. If you show up in Nashville with a non-compliant ID, you will not even make it to the gate for your domestic leg. While you can use your passport for domestic travel, many people prefer to keep their passport tucked away safely in their carry-on. In 2026, the potential outcome of forgetting your Real ID compliant license is a missed international flight that the airline is not obligated to refund, as the documentation error lies with the passenger. Digital ID wallets have also entered the mainstream in 2026. States like California and New York now allow citizens to carry a digital version of their driver's license in their Apple or Google Wallet. While this is revolutionary for domestic security, a common misconception among travelers is that this digital ID is a substitute for a physical passport when crossing international borders. It is not. Even if you are traveling to Mexico or Canada, nations that share significant data with the US, you still require the physical book or card. The digital ID is currently a tool for expedited identity verification at the TSA level, but it does not carry the legal weight of a sovereign travel document at a foreign immigration desk. The physical condition of your passport is being scrutinized more heavily in 2026 than at any point in history. Automated e-gates use high-resolution cameras to scan for microtears and binding stress. If the spine of your passport is cracked or if the gold leaf on the cover has faded to the point of being unreadable, you are statistically more likely to be pulled aside. This is because document forgers often age a fake passport to make it look authentic, and border agents are trained to see excessive wear as a red flag. As we move deeper into this masterclass, we have to look beyond the passport itself. In 2026, your identity is no longer just a physical book. It is a digital profile that begins the moment you book your ticket. There are new financial and health disclosure policies that have been quietly integrated into the check-in process for dozens of countries. If you think having a valid passport is the end of the story, you are only halfway there. In the next part of this series, we are going to break down the highly controversial EISHA system for Europe and the new financial solvency verifications that countries are now requiring from US citizens. We will look at why having a confirmed hotel booking is no longer enough, and how your bank statement might become a mandatory part of your digital travel authorization. We will also explore the exact steps to navigate the 2026 reciprocity fees that have reappeared in several South American nations, catching thousands of American tourists off guard and resulting in thousands of dollars in lost bookings. You do not want to miss the deep dive into the hidden costs of international entry that go far beyond the price of your ticket. The transition from a passport-only entry system to the era of mandatory digital travel authorizations has caught the American public off guard in 2026. For decades, the blue United States passport was a golden ticket that allowed nearly frictionless entry into the European Schengen area. However, as of this year, the European Travel Information and Authorization System, known as ETIAS, is no longer in its soft launch phase. It is a hard requirement for all US citizens. To understand the potential outcomes of ignoring this, imagine a traveler named James, a software engineer from Seattle who booked a direct flight to Rome for his honeymoon. James followed every historical trend he knew. He had a valid passport, he had his flights, and he had his hotel vouchers. But when he arrived at the Seattle-Tacoma International Terminal, the kiosk refused to print his boarding pass. The airline agent informed him that there was no EISHAs linked to his passport number. James attempted to apply on his phone at the counter, thinking it would be an instantaneous approval. While many applications are processed within minutes, the system officially allows for a 72-hour window, and in some cases, a 30-day window if additional documentation is required. Because James had a minor clerical error on a past legal record that required manual review, his application went into a pending state. The potential outcome was devastating. James and his wife watched their plane depart without them, losing the first 4 days of their non-refundable trip and paying thousands in rebooking fees. In 2026, the EISHAs is not a visa, but a security pre-screening. It costs approximately €7 and is valid for 3 years, or until your passport expires. You must provide your personal data, education level, current occupation, and details about any past travel to conflict zones. The most critical step-by-step detail here is the matching of information. If your EISHA's authorization has a single-digit transposed from your passport number, or if you use a middle name on one and not the other, the digital handshake between the airline and the immigration database will fail. Beyond the digital authorizations, we are seeing a massive surge in financial solvency verifications. This is a policy where foreign immigration officers demand proof that you can support yourself without seeking local employment. Historically, this was rarely enforced for Americans, but in 2026, countries like Spain and Thailand have institutionalized this check. For example, Spain currently requires travelers to prove they have a minimum of approximately €113 per day of their stay. For a 2-week vacation, that is over €1,500 per person. Imagine a character named Linda, a retired teacher from Ohio visiting Madrid. Upon arrival, she was asked by an immigration officer to show proof of funds. Linda assumed her credit cards were enough, but the officer required a printed bank statement from the last 3 months or a mobile banking login that showed liquid assets. The data shows that travelers who cannot provide this proof are being flagged for secondary questioning. To avoid this, the step-by-step protocol for 2026 involves printing a physical copy of your most recent bank statement and carrying a letter from your bank, on official letterhead, stating your account is in good standing. This may feel like an over-preparation, but case studies from early 2026 show that as global economic volatility increases, nations are becoming more protective of their social services and more wary of travelers who might overstay their welcome. This leads us to the proof of onward travel requirement, which has become a primary filter for entry in 2026. It is no longer sufficient to tell an officer that you plan to buy a bus ticket to the next country later. Airlines are now legally mandated to verify your return or onward flight before you even leave the United States. If you are a backpacker planning a multi-month journey through Southeast Asia starting in Vietnam, and you only have a one-way ticket, the potential outcome is being denied boarding at your point of origin. Many travelers tried to use the historical trend of booking a refundable flight and canceling it. But in 2026, some immigration systems are linked to airline manifests in real time. If you cancel that ticket while in the air, the officer's screen may flag your entry as high risk the moment you scan your passport at the destination. Now, we must discuss the return of reciprocity fees in South America. For several years, countries like Brazil and Chile fluctuated on whether to charge Americans an entry fee. In 2026, we have seen a trend toward reinstating these costs to match the fees the United States charges their citizens for visas. For a family of 4 heading to Rio de Janeiro, this could mean an unexpected $600 expense before even leaving the airport. These fees often cannot be paid at the border. They must be processed through a specific government portal weeks in advance. The step-by-step process involves uploading a digital passport photo that meets very specific pixel dimensions and paying the fee via an international credit card that is cleared for foreign transactions. If your bank blocks the transaction as fraud, your application remains incomplete, and you will not receive the necessary QR code for entry. Another hidden layer is the proof of accommodation. In 2026, the rise of unregulated short-term rentals has led many European and Asian cities to crack down on where tourists stay. You may be asked for a formal letter of invitation if you are staying with friends or family. This isn't just a handwritten note. In countries like France, it often requires a document known as an attestation d'accueil, which your host must obtain from their local town hall. Case studies show that Americans arriving with only a vague address of a cousin's apartment are being held in transit lounges until the host can be reached and the documentation verified. The data suggests that having a confirmed booking at a licensed hotel for at least the first 3 nights of your stay significantly reduces your chances of being pulled into secondary inspection. As we move through 2026, the complexity of these policies continues to scale. We are seeing a move toward what is being called the total digital identity, where your ETIAS, your financial proof, and your health records are all tethered to your passport's RFID chip. This level of integration is designed to speed up the process for prepared travelers, but it creates a massive barrier for those who rely on outdated information. You must treat your pre-travel documentation as a professional filing process. Every reservation, every authorization, and every financial statement must be synchronized. But what happens when the requirements aren't just about what you have in your bank account, but what you have in your blood? The next layer of international travel policy in 2026 involves a radical shift in health certifications and mandatory insurance coverages that go far beyond what we saw during the pandemic era. In the next part, we are going to dive into the new mandatory health portals and the specific insurance riders you must have to avoid being billed tens of thousands of dollars for a simple hospital visit abroad. We will also uncover the specific items in your everyday carry that are now being flagged as high-risk electronic devices in certain jurisdictions, potentially leading to the confiscation of your gear or even legal charges. You need to know exactly what is in your bag before you hit the TSA line, because by the time you reach the gate, it is already too late. In the evolving landscape of 2026, the concept of being fit to travel has shifted from a personal health choice to a strictly enforced bureaucratic protocol. As we peel back the layers of international travel policy, the most common roadblock for American travelers isn't just the passport. It is the health and hazard verification. Imagine a traveler named Mark, a 38-year-old developer from Denver, who planned a month-long sabbatical in Thailand. Mark had his EISHA's equivalents for his layover in Europe and a valid passport. However, upon checking in for his flight at Denver International Airport, the system flagged him for a missing mandatory health insurance certificate. Historically, travel insurance was seen as a luxury or a secondary safety net. In 2026, it has become a primary entry requirement for over 45 nations. Countries like Thailand, Jordan, Costa Rica, and several Gulf states now require a specific insurance policy that explicitly covers medical expenses up to a minimum threshold, often $50,000 to $100,000. The potential outcome for Mark was immediate. He was not allowed to check his bags because his standard US-based health insurance, which offered some international emergency coverage, did not provide a specific visa-compliant letter in the format required by Thai immigration. The step-by-step detail you must master here involves more than just buying a plan. You must ensure the policy includes an international coverage letter that explicitly mentions repatriation of remains and emergency medical evacuation. In 2026, these 2 clauses are non-negotiable. Many American credit cards offer travel insurance as a perk, but historical trends show these are frequently rejected by foreign consulates because they do not provide a dedicated certificate with a verifiable QR code linked to the traveler's passport number. For Mark, this meant a frantic 40-minute session on his laptop at the gate, purchasing a secondary, specialized policy for $400 just to get his boarding pass printed. Beyond the insurance, we have seen the rise of the digital health declaration. In 2026, many nations have replaced the old paper landing cards with digital portals that must be completed between 24 and 72 hours before departure. These portals, such as the ones currently used in parts of Southeast Asia and the Caribbean, require you to upload your insurance certificate, your accommodation details, and sometimes your vaccination history for specific regional diseases like yellow fever. If you are traveling from the US to certain parts of South America or Africa, the International Certificate of Vaccination or Prophylaxis, commonly known as the Yellow Card, is now being digitized. If your digital record does not sync with the airline's verification system, the potential outcome is a mandatory quarantine at your own expense upon arrival, or a total denial of entry. Now, let us transition to the physical contents of your luggage, specifically your electronics. This is where the 2026 policies have become incredibly granular and punitive. Imagine a traveler named Elena, a freelance photographer from Chicago, heading to Morocco for a desert shoot. Elena packed her professional drone, a standard piece of equipment she has used in the US for years. She was aware of the FAA's remote ID rules at home, but she didn't realize that in 2026, countries like Morocco, Nicaragua, and the United Arab Emirates have strict pre-authorization laws for any unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV. When Elena's bag went through the X-ray at her destination, the drone was immediately spotted. Because she had not applied for a commercial permit 6 months in advance, a process that involves security vetting by the local Ministry of Defense, her gear was not just held, it was confiscated. In 2026, some jurisdictions treat the importation of unauthorized drones as a national security violation. The potential outcomes range from heavy fines of several $1,000s to being permanently blacklisted from the country. The step-by-step preparation for 2026 must include checking the specific radio frequency and weight class of your electronics against the destination country's telecommunications authority. Even smaller electronics are under fire. The data shows a 30% increase in baggage delays due to lithium battery violations. In 2026, the standard limit remains 100 watt-hours for batteries in carry-on luggage, but the enforcement has become automated. New CT scanners at major US hubs can now calculate the exact watt-hour capacity of every power bank in your bag. If you have a high-capacity power station for your laptop that exceeds 160 watt-hours without airline approval, it will be pulled from your bag in the belly of the plane. Historical trends show that travelers often lose these expensive devices because they cannot be shipped easily due to hazardous material regulations. We must also address the legal complexities of prescription medications. This is perhaps the most dangerous trap for the 2026 American traveler. In the United States, medications for ADHD, such as Adderall or Ritalin, and certain pain management prescriptions are common. However, in countries like Japan, Singapore, and even some European nations, these are classified as controlled substances or even narcotics. Imagine an American student traveling to Tokyo with a 30-day supply of their prescribed ADHD medication. Even with a doctor's note, the potential outcome in 2026 could be an arrest for drug smuggling if the traveler did not apply for a yakin shomei, an import certificate, prior to arrival. The step-by-step protocol for medication in 2026 is rigorous. First, you must keep all pills in their original pharmacy packaging with the label matching your passport name. Second, you must carry a signed letter from your physician detailing the condition, the dosage, and the generic name of the drug. Third, and most importantly, you must check the International Narcotics Control Board, INCB, guidelines for your destination country. We have seen case studies where travelers spent weeks in foreign detention because they brought CBD oil or medicinal cannabis products into countries with zero-tolerance policies, despite these items being legal in their home state of California or Colorado. Finally, we are entering an era of electronic privacy sovereignty. In 2026, border agents in certain countries have the legal authority to demand the password to your smartphone or laptop. While U.S. citizens have specific protections at the American border, those protections do not travel with you. Case studies from 2025 and 2026 show that travelers who refuse to unlock their devices in certain jurisdictions are being denied entry on the spot. The data suggests that travelers carrying sensitive professional data or high volumes of encrypted files are being scrutinized more heavily. The potential outcome here is not just the loss of privacy, but the forensic imaging of your personal data. As we conclude this deep dive into health, hazards, and hardware, you can see that the modern traveler must be part lawyer and part logistics expert. Your bag is no longer just a collection of clothes. It is a manifestation of your compliance with a dozen different international treaties and local laws. But documentation and electronics are only the beginning. There is a far more subtle and powerful force at play in 2026, the biometric breadcrumbs we leave behind. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to explore the high-stakes world of biometric exit entry systems. We will look at how your social media presence and digital footprint are now being used by some nations to determine your visitor risk score before you even land. We will analyze the case studies of travelers who were denied visas because of their public digital history and provide the exact steps to audit your digital identity before you apply for your next international authorization. The wall is no longer just at the border. It is in the cloud, and you need to know how to navigate it. The concept of the border has fundamentally changed in 2026. It no longer begins at the physical gate or the immigration desk. It begins in the massive data centers where your digital identity is stored, analyzed, and assigned a risk profile. As we move into this section of our masterclass, we have to talk about the biometric breadcrumbs you leave behind every time you interact with a digital platform. For the modern American traveler, the most significant shift is the implementation of the Biometric Exit Entry Program by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP. By 2026, this system has achieved nearly 100% deployment at all major U.S. international airports. When you walk through a gate at JFK or LAX, you are no longer handing a paper boarding pass to an agent. Instead, you are looking into a camera. That camera uses facial recognition to match your live image against the gallery of photos already in the government's holdings, such as your passport or visa photo. This is what we call the seamless travel experience, but it comes with a level of scrutiny that many are unprepared for. Historical trends show that while this technology speeds up the boarding process, it also creates a permanent digital log of every movement. In 2026, these biometric logs are increasingly being shared between allied nations. If you are flagged for a minor documentation discrepancy in London, that flag is often visible to authorities in Sydney or Tokyo before you even book your next flight. The potential outcomes for a traveler with a fractured digital identity are severe: frequent secondary inspections, random baggage searches, and in extreme cases, the revocation of expedited travel privileges like global entry. To understand the stakes, let us look at a case study of David, a 42-year-old architect from Seattle. David is a seasoned traveler who has visited over 30 countries. In early 2026, David applied for an e-visa to a country in the Middle East for a high-profile design consultation. He filled out the forms accurately, paid the fees, and received what he thought was a routine approval. However, as David was in the air, somewhere over the Atlantic, the host country's newly implemented AI vetting system flagged a post David had made on a public professional forum back in 2022. In that post, David had participated in a heated discussion regarding urban planning and criticized the host country's infrastructure projects as being environmentally unsustainable. When David landed, he was not ushered through the e-gates. Instead, his passport triggered an alarm, and he was escorted to a windowless room. The immigration officers didn't ask about his passport or his hotel. They presented him with a printout of his 3-year-old social media post. In 2026, several nations have integrated natural language processing, NLP, into their visa processing. This technology allows them to scan the entire public digital footprint of a visa applicant for what they deem sensitive sentiment or incompatible ideologies. For David, the potential outcome was an immediate deportation and a 10-year ban from the country. His case study serves as a warning. Your digital history is now a part of your travel documentation. This leads us to the concept of the visitor risk score. While not all countries officially publicize this metric, the data from 2025 and 2026 suggests that many immigration authorities are using algorithmic scoring to categorize travelers. This score is calculated based on several factors: your travel history, your financial stability as discussed in Part 3, and your digital footprint. If you have a history of staying in a country until the final day of your visa, or if you frequently travel to conflict zones, your risk score increases. In 2026, a high-risk score doesn't necessarily mean you will be denied entry, but it does mean you will face a level of scrutiny that can turn a one-hour layover into a missed connection. So, how do you navigate this in 2026? You must perform a digital audit of your identity before you apply for any international travel authorization. The step-by-step process is rigorous. First, search for your own name across all major search engines and social media platforms. Use private browsing mode to see what a foreign official would see. Second, check your privacy settings on platforms like LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. Historical trends show that even private posts can sometimes be cached or accessed through third-party data brokers that governments use to supplement their vetting. Third, be prepared to provide your social media handles. In 2026, many visa applications, including the updated Isha-style forms, have a section asking for your digital aliases from the last 5 years. Failing to provide these or providing incomplete information can be viewed as a material misrepresentation, which is a fast track to a permanent visa denial. Imagine if you were traveling on a business trip and were asked to unlock your phone at the border. In 2026, the legal landscape surrounding device searches has become a minefield. While you have certain rights at the US border, once you are in international waters or standing at a foreign immigration desk, those rights are subject to the laws of the host nation. Case studies from 2026 show that travelers who carry clean devices, laptops or phones with minimal personal data or encrypted sensitive work files, are often treated with more suspicion than those with standard, everyday content. The recommendation for 2026 is to utilize cloud-based storage for sensitive documents. Do not carry folders of sensitive work on your hard drive. Instead, access them through a secure, multi-factor authenticated portal once you have cleared customs. The integration of biometrics has also reached the world of finance. In 2026, we are seeing the rise of biometric payment requirements for certain visa on arrival fees. Countries are moving away from cash and even physical credit cards in favor of digital wallets linked to your facial profile. If your banking app is not updated to support these international biometric handshakes, you might find yourself unable to pay the mandatory entry fees at the airport. The step-by-step detail here is to contact your financial institution and ensure your mobile wallet is international biometric ready. Furthermore, we must discuss the biometric double phenomenon. With the rise of deepfakes and identity theft, border systems in 2026 are now using liveness detection. This means the camera at the gate isn't just taking a picture. It is measuring the way your pupils react to light and the subtle micro-movements of your facial muscles to ensure you are a living human and not a high-resolution mask or a digital screen. If you have recently had significant cosmetic surgery or a facial injury, historical trends in 2026 suggest you must carry a medical certification explaining the change in your appearance to avoid being flagged for identity fraud. As we move deeper into this 2026 travel landscape, you can see that the barrier to entry is no longer just a physical wall or a stamp in a book. It is a complex, invisible network of data that monitors your behavior, your words, and even your biological markers. This level of oversight is unprecedented, and for the unprepared American traveler, it is the single greatest risk to a successful trip. But even if you have a perfect digital footprint and a flawless biometric profile, there is one more factor that can derail everything: the invisible lines of geopolitics. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the geopolitical tripwires of 2026. We will analyze how a simple stamp from one country can lead to an immediate interrogation in another. We will explore the hidden transit bans that affect Americans flying through certain global hubs, and the specific regions where your US passport might actually be a liability rather than an asset. We will also dive into the new carbon tracking passports that some nations are trialing, which could limit your travel based on your annual environmental impact. You need to understand the map of 2026 because the world has been redrawn, and the old alliances no longer guarantee a smooth passage. The geopolitical map of 2026 has become a shifting mosaic of alliances and digital fences that do not always appear on a standard globe. For the American traveler, the assumption that a blue passport is a universal key is a historical trend that has reached its expiration date. We are now seeing the emergence of geopolitical tripwires where the mere record of your presence in one nation can trigger an immediate denial of entry in another, often without a word of explanation from the immigration official. This is no longer limited to the well-known tensions in the Middle East. It has expanded into a complex web involving East Asian economic zones, Eastern European corridors, and even specific island nations in the Pacific that have aligned themselves with different global power blocks. Consider a case study involving Robert, a 45-year-old consultant from Virginia. In February 2026, Robert took a short business trip to a nation in Central Asia that had recently signed a comprehensive security and data-sharing pact with a major Eastern power. His passport was stamped, and his biometric data was recorded in their regional database. 2 months later, Robert attempted to enter a neighboring country that maintains a strategic, albeit tense, partnership with the United States. Despite having a valid visa and no criminal record, Robert was pulled into secondary inspection for 6 hours. The immigration officers were not interested in his business meetings. They were focused on the digital manifest shared between the regional hubs. Because Robert had stayed in a city currently categorized as a high surveillance zone by the destination country, he was deemed a potential security risk. The potential outcome was a summary exclusion, meaning Robert was put on the next flight back to Dulles, and his visa was canceled on the spot. This leads us to the hidden transit bans that are catching thousands of Americans off guard in 2026. Many travelers choose their flights based on cost and layover convenience, often transiting through massive hubs like Doha, Istanbul, or Dubai. However, in the current geopolitical climate, certain destination countries have begun to categorize travelers based on their transit route. If you are flying from the US to a sensitive region in Southeast Asia, but your flight has a 12-hour layover in a hub that is currently under a diplomatic cloud with your destination, you may find your entry permit revoked mid-flight. Historical trends show that travelers who use indirect routes to save a few $100s are now facing the highest rates of entry denial. The step-by-step detail for 2026 is to verify the transit alignment of your hub. You must check the current diplomatic status between your transit airport's host country and your final destination. If there is an active trade dispute or a security standoff, your transit record becomes a permanent part of your travel risk profile. Furthermore, we must address the reality that in 2026, the U.S. passport can sometimes be a liability in regions experiencing high levels of diplomatic reciprocity. This concept, known as tit-for-tat diplomacy, means that if the United States government increases the visa fee for citizens of Country A will immediately increase the fee for Americans. If the U.S. adds a specific official from Country B to a sanctions list, Country B may respond by subjecting all U.S. citizens to mandatory ideological neutrality interviews upon arrival. We have seen case studies in 2026 where American tourists were asked to sign declarations of non-interference in local politics before being allowed past the arrivals hall. Failing to understand these shifts can lead to the potential outcome of being detained at the border for failing to comply with local administrative decrees that change overnight. Now we must dive into the most radical policy shift of 2026, the carbon tracking passport and the implementation of the EU Green Corridor mandate. Several European and Nordic nations have begun trialing a system where your entry is tied to your annual carbon footprint. This is not a tax you pay at the gate, but a digital allowance that is tracked through your passport and your airline tickets. Imagine Emily, a 29-year-old freelance writer from San Francisco. Emily had already taken 3 long-haul flights in 2026, one to London, one to Tokyo, and one to Buenos Aires. When she tried to book a flight to Oslo for a summer retreat, her travel agent system flagged her passport number. Under the new Green Corridor protocols, Emily had exceeded her high-altitude emissions quota for the calendar year. The potential outcome for Emily was not a total ban, but a mandatory environmental surcharge that tripled the cost of her ticket, combined with the requirement to purchase verified carbon offsets before her EISHAs could be validated for that specific trip. This is a step-by-step reality for 2026 travelers. You must now monitor your travel frequency not just for your budget, but for your regulatory compliance. Historical trends suggest that this policy will likely expand to more nations as international climate treaties are integrated into border control software. To navigate this, you should use official carbon tracking apps that sync with your MyTravelGov portal to see where you stand before you book that 4th or 5th international flight of the year. The physical evidence of your travel is also undergoing a change. While many countries have moved to digital stamps, the physical ink in your book still tells a story that AI systems cross-reference. In 2026, we are seeing the rise of the digital shadow stamp. Even if a country does not physically mark your passport, they create a digital record that is uploaded to a centralized global repository used by over 60 nations. If you visited a region known for off-grid tourism or unregulated financial activities, that digital shadow follows you. We have seen case studies where Americans applying for long-term residency in Europe were denied because their digital shadow showed multiple entries into gray-listed economic zones 5 years prior. The data indicates that the global community is moving toward a total transparency model, where your travel history is treated like a credit report. As an American traveler in 2026, your step-by-step preparation must include a geopolitical audit. This involves checking the U.S. Department of State's travel advisory levels, but also looking at the regional news for your destination. Are there upcoming elections? Is there a burgeoning trade war? These factors directly influence how you will be treated at the border. You should also maintain a clean political footprint on your digital devices, as we discussed in Part 5, because the intersection of your physical location and your digital opinions is where the most modern denials of entry occur. The world of 2026 is a place where the lines on the map are reinforced by algorithms and geopolitical sentiment. You are no longer just a tourist. You are a representative of your nation's foreign policy, and you are judged accordingly by the systems you encounter. But what happens when you decide you want to stay longer than a 2-week vacation? What if you want to work from a beach in Portugal or a mountain in Japan? The policies for staying have become even more complex than the policies for entering. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to break down the 2026 digital nomad visa trap. We will analyze the hidden tax implications that can follow you back to the United States, and the specific proof of remote employment standards that are causing hundreds of Americans to be deported for illegal labor. We will look at the case studies of travelers who thought they were on a working holiday, but ended up in a legal nightmare with both the IRS and a foreign revenue service. You need to know the difference between a tourist and a resident in the eyes of the law before you open your laptop in a foreign cafe. The moment you open your laptop in a sun-drenched cafe in Lisbon or a sleek co-working space in Tokyo, the legal status of your presence in that country fundamentally shifts. In the eyes of international law in 2026, there is no longer a gray area between being a tourist and being a remote worker. Historical trends show that for years, Americans engaged in stealth digital nomadism, entering on a 90-day tourist waiver and quietly handling Zoom calls for their employers back in New York or Chicago. But as we navigate the current landscape, the potential outcomes for those attempting to bypass official work channels have become increasingly severe. Governments have realized that remote workers utilize local infrastructure, roads, healthcare, and public safety, without contributing to the local tax base. Consequently, by 2026, over 65 nations have institutionalized specific digital nomad visas, DNVs, and they have simultaneously deployed sophisticated digital tools to catch those who do not comply. Imagine a traveler named Alex, a 32-year-old UX designer from Austin. Alex decided to spend the spring of 2026 in Portugal, lured by the Mediterranean lifestyle. He entered on a standard Schengen tourist waiver, believing that as long as his clients were in the US and he was paid in a US bank account, he was technically a tourist. However, in 2026, many European cities have integrated IP geofencing, alerts within local public Wi-Fi networks, and co-working hubs. When Alex consistently logged into a high-bandwidth corporate VPN from a residential IP address for more than 30 consecutive days, his digital footprint was flagged. When he attempted to leave the country via the Lisbon airport, the automated e-gate did not open. He was met by an immigration officer who presented him with a log of his digital activity. Because Alex was working without the mandatory digital nomad visa, he was fined €3,000 and issued a 5-year ban from the entire Schengen area. This case study is becoming a standard reality for the unprepared. The first step-by-step detail you must master in 2026 is the income threshold verification. Most competitive digital nomad destinations now require proof of a minimum monthly income that is often 3 to 4 times the local minimum wage. For example, to qualify for the popular Spanish or Greek DNVs in 2026, an American applicant must demonstrate a stable monthly income of approximately $3,500 to $4,000. The data shows that simply providing a bank statement is no longer enough. You must provide a certified employment contract that explicitly states you are permitted to work remotely from abroad. Furthermore, this document must be apostilled. For those unfamiliar with the term, an apostille is a form of international legalization that authenticates a document for use in another country. In 2026, getting a document apostilled by the Secretary of State in your home state can take anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. If you arrive at a foreign consulate with a standard notarized letter that lacks the federal or state apostille seal, your application will be rejected instantly. Now, we must address the taxation tripwire, which is the most complex part of the 2026 travel landscape. There is a historical trend of travelers believing that double taxation treaties mean they don't have to worry about taxes. This is a dangerous misconception. The United States is one of the only countries in the world that taxes based on citizenship, not just residency. This means that as an American, the IRS expects a cut of your global income regardless of where you are standing. In 2026, the critical metric is the 183-day rule. In almost every jurisdiction, if you spend more than 183 days in a single calendar year within their borders, you are automatically classified as a tax resident. The potential outcome of hitting that 183-day mark without a professional tax strategy is a legal nightmare. You could find yourself owing Social Security and income tax to a foreign government, while the IRS still expects your full quarterly payments. To navigate this, savvy 2026 travelers are utilizing the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, FEIE, specifically Form 2555. However, to qualify for the FEIE, you must pass either the physical presence test, staying outside the U.S. for 330 full days, or the bona fide residence test. We have seen case studies where travelers miss the 330-day window by just 48 hours due to a flight delay, resulting in a tax bill of $20,000 that they hadn't budgeted for. In 2026, your travel calendar is not just a vacation plan. It is a financial compliance document. Furthermore, we must discuss the employer nexus problem. In 2026, many U.S.-based corporations have implemented strict "no remote abroad" policies. The reason is not lack of trust, but legal liability. If an employee works from a foreign country for an extended period, the company itself could be viewed as having a permanent establishment in that nation. This would subject the American company to local corporate taxes, labor laws, and reporting requirements. Imagine a character named Jordan, a senior analyst for a tech firm in San Francisco. Jordan decided to work from van life across the Italian coast without informing his HR department. When the company's cybersecurity software flagged his connection from an Italian IP, he was not just fired. The company sued him for the legal costs associated with the tax nexus he had inadvertently created for them in the EU. The data suggests that over 40% of remote-capable jobs in the US now have geographic lockouts on their company hardware. If you are planning to utilize the new 2026 Japan J-Nomad visa, the requirements are even more granular. Unlike the European models, Japan's 6-month Nomad visa is non-renewable and requires a minimum annual income of approximately 10 million yen, which is roughly $68,000 as of current exchange rates. The step-by-step application requires a specialized private health insurance policy that covers death and repatriation, specifically for Japan. Historical trends show that standard American health plans, even those with international riders, are frequently rejected because they do not meet the specific yen-denominated coverage limits required by Japanese immigration. The 2026 proof of accommodation for nomads has also tightened. Many countries now require a long-term lease agreement that is registered with the local municipality. You can no longer just show a series of 2-week Airbnb receipts. This is designed to stabilize local housing markets that have been inflated by the influx of high-earning remote workers. To comply, you must often work with a local relocation agent who can verify the legality of your lease before you even apply for the visa. As we look at the integration of these policies, it becomes clear that the era of the unregulated nomad has ended. Your ability to work while you travel is now a highly regulated privilege that requires a deep understanding of international tax law, document authentication, and corporate liability. If you treat it like a long vacation, you are inviting a level of legal scrutiny that can have permanent consequences for your career and your ability to travel in the future. But what about the physical things you bring back with you? As you move from country to country, collecting experiences and goods, you are entering another heavily policed zone: the customs and currency corridor. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to expose the 2026 hidden wealth reporting standards. We will look at why carrying more than a certain amount of digital currency, or even high-value jewelry, can lead to immediate seizure at the border. We will analyze the data on the new AI-driven cargo scanners that can detect restricted items in your checked luggage from a mile away, and the specific agricultural biosecurity rules that are resulting in $500 fines for a single piece of fruit. You have secured your visa and paid your taxes, but can you get your belongings through the gate? The answer is more complicated than you think. Entering the Customs and Border Protection Corridor in 2026 is no longer a simple matter of walking through a door and nodding at an officer. For the American traveler returning home or the explorer entering a new territory, this is the final hurdle of the international travel gauntlet. The rules of the game have shifted from manual inspections to a high-precision, AI-driven environment where what you carry in your pocket can be just as scrutinized as what you carry in your bank account. In 2026, we are seeing the total integration of financial reporting and biological security, creating a reality where a single undeclared item can result in the permanent revocation of your travel privileges. Let us start with the most common pitfall: the currency and digital asset reporting threshold. Historically, the rule has been simple. If you carry more than $10,000 in cash or negotiable instruments, you must declare it. However, in 2026, the definition of a negotiable instrument has expanded to include high-value prepaid cards and, in several jurisdictions, cold storage cryptocurrency hardware wallets. Imagine a traveler named Michael, a 30-year-old entrepreneur from Miami. Michael was traveling to a tech conference in Dubai and was carrying $9,000 in physical currency to stay under the reporting limit. However, he also had a Ledger hardware wallet in his carry-on containing $50,000 worth of Bitcoin. Under the 2026 protocols in certain Middle Eastern and European hubs, customs officers now have the authority to ask if you are carrying private keys or digital wealth access devices. While the United States FinCEN Form 105 does not yet explicitly require the declaration of the value inside a cold wallet, many foreign nations have begun treating these devices as bearers of value. Michael's failure to declare his digital assets led to a 4-hour detention and the forensic imaging of his device. Because Susan was a global entry member and checked no on her customs declaration, she faced an immediate outcome. Her global entry was revoked on the spot. In 2026, there is a zero-tolerance policy for trusted travelers who fail to declare agricultural items. The data shows that the U.S. loses billions of dollars annually to invasive species like the Mediterranean fruit fly or copper beetle. The step-by-step preparation is simple. If you can eat it, declare it. Even if you think it is processed, such as dried meat or specialty seeds, the risk of a $500 fine and a lifetime ban from expedited security is not worth the potential convenience. Beyond food and money, we must discuss the 2026 crackdowns on luxury goods and intellectual property. The duty-free $800 exemption for U.S. residents remains the standard, but the enforcement is now backed by transaction transparency. In 2026, many luxury brands have integrated digital certificates of authenticity that are linked to the buyer's passport at the point of sale in cities like Paris or Milan. When you clear customs, the officer's screen may already show that you purchased a $12,000 watch at a boutique 3 days prior. Imagine if you try to wear the watch and claim it was an old personal item. Historical trends in 2026 show that customs authorities are increasingly using social media scraping and global purchase databases to verify the origin of luxury items. If you are caught lying about a purchase to avoid the 3% to 10% duty fee, you face the potential outcome of the item being seized as undeclared commercial merchandise. We also need to address the cultural heritage trap. This is a growing trend in 2026 where nations like Greece, Egypt, Turkey, and Mexico have implemented artifact integrity laws. It is no longer just about ancient statues. In 2026, even taking a specific type of volcanic rock from a protected beach in Iceland or a fossil from a desert in Morocco can be classified as theft of national heritage. We have seen case studies where American tourists were detained for illegal extraction of geological resources because they wanted a souvenir from a hike. The data suggests that over 2,000 Americans are fined annually for carrying unprocessed natural materials that they didn't realize were protected. The step-by-step rule for 2026 is: take only photos. If you buy a souvenir that looks like an artifact, ensure you have a permit for export from the local Ministry of Culture. The physical gate is also where the electronic privacy sovereignty we discussed in Part 5 meets its final test. In 2026, Customs and Border Protection has the Border Search Authority to look through your digital devices without a warrant. While this is a highly debated legal topic, the current policy allows for a basic search of any device presented at the border. If the device is locked and you refuse to provide the passcode, CBP can detain the device for an extended period for forensic analysis. For travelers carrying sensitive business data or legal documents, the potential outcome is a significant compromise of confidentiality. The 2026 strategy is the cloud-only approach. Travel with a factory reset device and download your data only after you have cleared the customs hall. As we navigate through the customs corridor of 2026, it is clear that transparency is the only viable strategy. The system is designed to catch the avoidant traveler, not the accidental one. If you declare a questionable item, the worst that usually happens is it is taken away. If you hide it, you lose your travel privileges, your money, and potentially your freedom. But even if you master the customs rules and have your documentation in order, there is one final piece of the puzzle that is currently undergoing a massive legal revolution: the relationship between you and the airline. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the 2026 Airline Passenger Bill of Rights. We will look at the new mandatory refund policies for delays over 3 hours and the specific Lufthansa loophole that savvy travelers are using to get thousands of dollars in compensation for overbooked flights. We will also analyze the 2026 luggage tracking mandate and how you can now legally demand a lost opportunity payment if your bags don't arrive on the carousel within 20 minutes. You have dealt with the government. Now it is time to learn how to deal with the airlines to ensure they don't leave you stranded and broke. The power dynamic between the American traveler and the airline industry has undergone a legislative revolution that has finally reached its peak in 2026. For decades, if your flight was canceled or delayed, you were at the mercy of a customer service agent behind a plexiglass barrier, often being offered a voucher that expired in 12 months and was riddled with blackout dates. In 2026, the Department of Transportation (DOT) has fully implemented the final rule on automatic refunds, a policy that has fundamentally shifted the financial risk of travel disruptions from the passenger back to the carrier. This is a critical component of your masterclass because knowing the law is the difference between a ruined vacation and a fully funded recovery. Imagine a traveler named Tyler, a 30-year-old teacher from Atlanta, who booked a high-stakes flight to London for a summer fellowship in June 2026. His flight was scheduled for a 9 p.m. departure, but due to a mechanical failure, not a weather event, the flight was pushed back repeatedly until it was finally canceled at 3 a.m. In the historical trends of 2023, Tyler would have been lucky to get a hotel voucher and a rebooked flight 2 days later. In 2026, the potential outcome for Tyler is an automatic, prompt refund in the original form of payment. Under the 2026 DOT mandate, if an international flight is delayed by more than 6 hours, or a domestic flight by more than 3, and the passenger chooses not to take the alternative transportation offered, the airline is legally required to issue a cash refund within 7 business days for credit card purchases. The step-by-step detail here is vital. The airline is prohibited from making you jump through hoops. They cannot require you to fill out a complex online form or wait on hold for hours to request what is legally yours. The refund must be automatic. Furthermore, the rule explicitly states that the refund must include all government-imposed taxes and fees, which often make up a significant portion of an international ticket price. Case studies from early 2026 show that travelers who are aware of this rule are no longer accepting low-value travel credits. They are taking their cash and booking a last-minute seat on a competitor, maintaining control over their itinerary. However, the real deep dive involves the intersection of U.S. law and European regulations, specifically EC 261/2004, which remains the gold standard for passenger protection. This is where we encounter the so-called Lufthansa loophole that many Americans fail to exploit. Imagine a traveler named Monica, flying from New York to Frankfurt on a German-flagged carrier. Her flight arrives 5 hours late due to an airline operational issue. Because she is on a European carrier flying into the EU, or any carrier flying out of the EU, she is protected by EC 261. In 2026, the compensation for a long-haul flight delay of over 4 hours is fixed at €600 per person. The data suggests that billions of euros in unclaimed compensation are left on the table every year by U.S. citizens who believe these laws only apply to Europeans. The step-by-step protocol for Monica is to ignore the airline's initial offer of a $200 flight voucher. Instead, she must file a formal EC 261 claim. If the airline claims extraordinary circumstances, such as air traffic control strikes or weather, the 2026 standards require the airline to provide documented proof of that claim. Monica can use third-party flight tracking data to prove that other flights were departing on time, debunking the weather excuse. Historical trends show that airlines often settle these claims as soon as a passenger cites the specific legal article of the regulation. Now, let us address the 2026 luggage tracking mandate. The Department of Transportation now requires airlines to provide real-time tracking for every checked bag. You should be able to see the exact moment your bag is loaded onto the plane and the moment it hits the tug at your destination. But the policy goes deeper. If your bag is not delivered to the carousel within 15 to 20 minutes of your plane arriving at the gate, several major U.S. carriers have institutionalized a baggage service guarantee. While some airlines offer 2,500 frequent flyer miles, the 2026 federal rule focus is on the refund of baggage fees. If your bag is delayed by more than 15 hours for an international flight, the airline must automatically refund the fee you paid to check that bag. The lost opportunity payment is a newer, more aggressive strategy being used in 2026 by savvy travelers. Imagine you are traveling to a wedding in Tuscany and your bag, containing your suit or dress, is delayed. In 2026, the Montreal Convention governs the liability limits for international travel, which currently sits at approximately $1,700 per passenger. If the airline loses your bag or delays it to the point where you must purchase replacement clothing to attend your event, you are entitled to reimbursement for reasonable expenses. The step-by-step detail here is to keep every single receipt. In 2026, airlines are using AI to scan these receipts for luxury gouging, so ensure your replacements are of a similar quality to what was in the bag. Do not expect a refund for a designer tuxedo if you were carrying a standard suit. We must also analyze the 2026 involuntary denied boarding, or bumping protocols. As airlines have optimized their load factors to nearly 100%, the frequency of overbooked flights has increased. However, the DOT has raised the ceiling on compensation. If you are involuntarily bumped from a flight in 2026 because the airline oversold it, and the alternative flight they provide arrives more than 4 hours after your original scheduled arrival, you are entitled to 400% of your one-way fare, with a cap that has now reached nearly $1,600. Historical trends show that travelers who wait for the auction to peak often get even more. Instead of taking the first $500 offer, wait for the gate agent to become desperate. In 2026, we have seen case studies where passengers received $3,000 in cash-equivalent gift cards because the airline needed to move a flight crew to another city. The final layer of the 2026 airline policy deep dive is the in-flight service level agreement. With the universal rollout of high-speed, low-latency satellite internet like Starlink and Viasat across all major U.S. carriers, many airlines now sell premium connectivity packages. In 2026, if you pay $25 for a Wi-Fi pass and the service is down for more than 30% of the flight duration, you are entitled to an automatic partial refund. This applies to seatback entertainment systems as well. If your screen is non-functional on a 10-hour flight to Tokyo, the potential outcome is a significant deposit of customer recovery, miles, or a credit toward a future flight. The step-by-step detail is to take a photo of the non-functional screen with your boarding pass in the frame as evidence for your post-flight claim. Navigating the airlines in 2026 is about understanding that you are not just a passenger, you are a party to a contract of carriage. Every delay, every lost bag, and every broken seat is a breach of that contract. By documenting everything and citing the specific DOT or EC 261 mandates, you ensure that the cost of travel disruptions is borne by the billion-dollar corporations, not your personal savings. However, even with your cash refunded and your bags tracked, there is a final darker side to international travel that we have yet to discuss. In the concluding part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the emergency protocols and the State Department's invisible hand. We will analyze what happens when a country goes from level 2 to level 4 while you are on the ground. We will look at the 2026 extraction insurance realities and the specific steps you must take to ensure the U.S. Embassy knows where you are without compromising your privacy. This is the part of the guide that no one wants to talk about, but it is the one that could save your life when the world changes overnight. The final part of our guide is the ultimate survival manual for the modern American abroad. The moment the alert hits your screen, the transition from traveler to evacuee begins. In 2026, the speed of geopolitical volatility has necessitated a new tier of personal responsibility for every American crossing a border. We must dismantle the myth that the United States government is a concierge service for citizens in distress. Historical trends show that during the sudden unrest in various global regions over the last 5 years, thousands of travelers were left waiting at airport gates because they lacked a fundamental understanding of the emergency evacuation protocols. Potential outcomes for those who rely on assumptions rather than documented policy include being stranded during a total airspace closure, which can last for weeks. To navigate the unthinkable, we must start with the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP. In 2026, this system has evolved far beyond a simple email list. The 2026 version of STEP now integrates with your digital passport and MyTravelGov account, utilizing geolocation data to provide high-precision alerts. Imagine a traveler named Marcus, a 40-year-old architect from Chicago, who is visiting a coastal city in a nation that suddenly experiences a severe tectonic event followed by a tsunami warning. Because Marcus was enrolled in STEP 2.0, his smartphone received a satellite-linked push notification, bypassing the congested local cellular networks, providing the exact GPS coordinates of the nearest designated assembly point for U.S. citizens. The step-by-step detail for Marcus involves more than just receiving an alert. In 2026, the State Department uses the STEP data to create a manifest for potential evacuation flights. If you are not in the system, you do not exist on that manifest. Historical trends suggest that in high-stakes extractions, those who are registered receive priority seating on chartered aircraft. Furthermore, the 2026 update allows you to designate a family member in the U.S. as a crisis proxy, giving them the legal authority to coordinate with the Office of Overseas Citizens Services on your behalf. But what happens if you lose everything? Imagine if Marcus had lost his wallet and passport in the chaos. This leads us to the reality of the repatriation loan. Contrary to popular belief, the U.S. government does not provide free flights home for citizens in crisis. If a commercial flight is unavailable and the government charters an evacuation plane, you are required to sign a promissory note, specifically Form DS-5528. In 2026, the potential outcome of signing this note is a legally binding debt to the U.S. government. The cost is typically the equivalent of a full-fare, last-minute commercial economy ticket to the United States. The step-by-step detail of a repatriation loan is rigorous. You must prove you have no other means of obtaining funds. Once the loan is issued and you are returned to U.S. soil, your passport is often marked as valid for return to the United States only. You will not be issued a full validity passport again until the loan is repaid in full. Historical trends show that travelers who do not have a secondary emergency fund or crisis insurance find themselves grounded for years as they work to pay back the government for their seat on an evacuation flight. This brings us to the critical distinction between standard travel insurance and 2026 security extraction insurance. Most travelers assume their medical policy will get them out of a war zone or a coup. Case studies from 2025 and 2026 prove this is a dangerous error. Standard travel insurance typically covers medical evacuation, getting you to a hospital if you are sick. Security extraction is a different animal entirely. It involves private security contractors and chartered transport from a point of danger to a point of safety. In 2026, if you are traveling to a region with a Level 3 Reconsider travel rating, you must ensure your policy includes a non-medical evacuation rider. These policies often require you to follow the advice of the insurance company's security team. If they tell you to move to a safe house and you refuse, your coverage is voided. The data indicates that Americans who invest in high-tier security riders have a 70% higher success rate in exiting a country before commercial flights are grounded compared to those who wait for a government-led evacuation. We must also discuss the role of the U.S. Embassy in a 2026 legal crisis. Imagine if Marcus was not in a natural disaster, but was instead arrested due to a misunderstanding of local 2026 surveillance laws. The State Department's invisible hand is limited by international law. A consular officer can visit you in jail, provide a list of local English-speaking lawyers, and ensure you are being treated humanely according to local standards. However, they cannot get you out of jail. They cannot provide legal advice or pay your bail. Historical trends show that travelers often waste precious time demanding that the embassy fix their legal problems, rather than immediately engaging the local legal counsel recommended by the consulate. As we conclude this 10-part masterclass, we have covered the entire life cycle of a 2026 international journey. We began with the new biometric standards and the digital passport requirements. We moved through the complexities of ESHAs and the financial solvency checks that are now mandatory for entry. We analyzed the health declarations and the legal traps of remote work. We decoded the customs corridor and the new passenger bill of rights. Now, with these emergency protocols, the map is complete. The American traveler of 2026 is no longer a passive observer of the world, You are a participant in a highly regulated, digitally tracked, and geopolitically sensitive ecosystem. Success in this era is defined by your ability to stay ahead of the policy curve. You must treat your travel preparation with the same rigor you would treat a professional business operation. The potential outcomes of being well-informed are seamless transitions across borders and the preservation of your financial and physical security. The potential outcomes of ignorance are confiscated documents, denied entries, and the loss of the most valuable asset you have, your mobility. The policies we have discussed today are current as of mid-2026, but the historical trends we have analyzed suggest that the rate of change is accelerating. Governments are moving toward real-time, algorithmic border control, and the requirements for the American passport will continue to shift as global alliances evolve. You now have the masterclass roadmap to navigate these waters with confidence. You are equipped with the case studies to avoid the mistakes of others and the step-by-step details to secure your own passage. But even with all this knowledge, there is a hidden tier of international travel that is only just beginning to emerge. There are specific unlisted protocols for those traveling with high-value digital assets and those seeking to leverage the new 2027 sovereign wealth passports. The world is splitting into two lanes of travel: the high-friction lane for the uninformed and the accelerated lane for those who know how to navigate the digital bureaucracy. In our next deep dive series, we are going to expose the 2027 global visa forecasts. We will look at the nations that are quietly planning to eliminate the U.S. visa-free waiver entirely, and the rise of the digital identity score, and how it will determine your seat on a plane before you even pay for the ticket. We will also analyze the secret protocols for securing private-tier entry into the world's most exclusive economic zones. You have mastered the current policies. Now it is time to look at the future of global access. The door is closing on the old way of traveling, and you need to be on the right side of the threshold.